So in this problem, we are looking at a coffee machine that dispenses coffee into paper cups. You're supposed to get 10 ounces of coffee, but the amount varies slightly from cup to cup. Here are the amounts sampled in a random sample of 20 cups. Is there evidence that the machine is cheating its customers? Okay, so we've got these different samples, and each of these numbers represents a different number of ounces. So this right here, this 9.9, that was somebody who got 9.9 ounces of coffee when they purchased some. And this 10.2 right here, this is somebody who got slightly more, right? They got 10.2 ounces of coffee when they ordered their coffee. And what we're going to do first is construct a 95% confidence interval for the true average amount of coffee dispensed. And then we're going to use that confidence interval to decide, is there evidence that the machine is cheating its customers? Now, before we do a confidence interval test, we need to check that this meets the conditions to do a T interval. And so there are three conditions that we need to check. The first is that our sample is random and independent. Now, we've done a sample and they tell us right here that it's a random sample. So we meet that condition. The second condition is that we need to have one of two things met. Either our sample needs to be large, meaning n is bigger than or equal to 25, or we need that our sample is normal, meaning that it's a normal distribution. And we need one of these to be met. Now, we definitely don't meet this one. I'm looking at this grid of numbers and n equals 20 here. So we're not big enough to meet that one. So let's take these numbers and put them into our calculator and see if we have a normal distribution. Okay, so here I've put those coffee amounts into L1. And so to see if this is a normal distribution, I'm going to graph this L1 data. So let me clear out my button history so that you can follow along. So to make a graph of this data, I'm going to go to stat plot. So second and y equals to go to stat plot. And then it looks like I already have this plot one on, so I'm going to go to that one by hitting enter and changing it. Now, the type of graph I want is a histogram. So I'm going to highlight the histogram and press enter. I do want to use the L1 graph. And so from here, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to zoom and I'm going to go down to zoom stat. We can also just hit the number 9 to go to zoom stat. And so I get this graph, and this is not unimodal and symmetric. So this is not a normal distribution. So this particular condition we don't meet because this isn't a normal distribution. So going back to our worksheet, I actually don't meet this condition either. Now, if I want to make sure that my results are reasonable, I should probably get up to 25 on my sample. So I would need to sample 5 more cups of coffee. And then I could be confident. Now, we also want to, as the last condition here, and this should feel familiar to you, is that our sample can't be more than 10% of the population. So that one should feel familiar to you. Now that we've done this, we can take this data, go back to our graphing calculators, and do the steps that we practiced in the video. So we can create a t-interval from the L1 data. Now, this is a little bit different for, as we talked about in the last video, it's a little bit different from when we were doing one prop Z intervals in that you have the choice of data or stats. Because we have all of the numbers here, we're going to choose data and not stats. If you're given a mean and a standard deviation, you'll want to use the stats button.